Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is ending. That's way too long. Suicide Squad is going to end. It never should have begun in the first place. We should have gotten Batman Beyond or Arkham Justice League. They had a perfectly good map of Metropolis for us to play in. Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Flash were all in the game. We could have played as them. The Arkham games had a great style of gameplay. Free flow combat. It made you feel powerful, like a superhero. The combat in Suicide Squad boiled down to jumping and shooting. Yes, each character had a melee attacks, but only a few, and they aren't the attacks the game wants you to use much. They want you to use the guns they have for sale, the guns that everyone can use, so they can sell more of them. This game should not have been a live service game. It only made things worse. It was one of the biggest problems with that game, other than the story. That story was Sweet Baby Justice League hate fiction. Think about it. Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, Green Lantern, and Flash would never do what they did in this game. In an audio log from the game, you hear them all say they know it's a trap. They go anyway. Batman goes when he totally would not go. Would not. And of course, they all get brainwashed. For a long time, I was mad about this, and while I still am, I realized what's going on. Thanks to people like Linkara, Angry Joe, and the Nostalgia Critic, I learned about how people can buy rights to IPs and make non-canon stories with them. There are amazing fanfiction stories out there, and really bad ones. Good stories can even become canon. Look at Harley Quinn. She was made up for a show, and people liked her so much, she became a canon character. As for bad stories, Sonic 2006 was supposed to be the next canon Sonic game in '06, but it was so bad that it was erased from canon. I hope Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League suffered the same fate. As yet another thing that I can use to compare both games. Both games are made when their studios were going through really crazy stuff. Lots of talent left. Then the games came out while trying to do things differently. New characters, new gameplay styles, new stories were made. And while some people may have liked it, most people didn't, and the game failed. Now there are Let's Play videos that mock it on YouTube, like PokeCaptains, and they are so fun. And with the recent news, Suicide Squad may soon join the fun. They have announced an offline mode, so when the server shut down, it won't be erased like Concord. So someday I could actually buy the game and the equipment I need to play it. Until then, I look forward to people learning from the mistakes Rocksteady, WB, and Sweet Baby made when they made this game. If you're going to make a live service game, don't make it an exclusive. Suicide Squad was only playable on PS5, Xbox, and PC. That's really limited the amount of people that could play this game, along with the fact that it was a AAA game. Yes, there are good AAA live service games, like Helldivers 2, Mega Break, and The First Descendant. The differences are the studios that produce those games, good live service games, are built for it. Studios like Rocksteady are built for offline single-player games. And Suicide Squad Kill Justice League feels like it. A good live service game keeps its players engaged with multiple new characters, stories, and missions. Helldivers 2 is a great example. From level 1, you are having fun. And as you level up by completing missions where you kill giant bugs and robots and save NPCs, you get better weapons, in-game currency that you can use to make your gameplay experience better. You can buy new armor, accessories, and eventually you get a message saying you need to liberate a planet or a quadrant that has mech factories in it. When I first heard this, I was like, whatever, this is a sci-fi world, of course they will have mech factories. Later, after liberating that planet or quadrant, I heard, or seeing that quadrant liberated, I heard that if you have enough in-game currency, you can buy the ability to use mechs. Now you can make the game even more fun. With a mech, you can use more weapons, have more armor, and I even saw a video where a guy used his mech to shred giant bugs, and then when he ran out of ammo, he placed it in a narrow pathway and got out of it, so he could shoot at the bugs some more. Because he put the mech on the path, they could not get past it. On that path, they could not get past it to attack him. Well, that's awesome. Meanwhile, in Suicide Squad, they gave us a few hours of story content, which sucks, and a few missions. Your 4 characters can, missions. Your 4 characters can jump and shoot through to earn overpriced skins and villain-themed guns that should have been playable characters. They then basically said, "See you next month." When it comes to story updates, which is interesting because when the next exploit was found in the game, enemies are weak against fire or something. It only took a few days for it to be patched out. Kind of shows what the devs' priorities were. A month or so later, we got our first season's content. One new character, Joker, more overpriced skins, and the villain-themed guns that should have been playable characters. Also, a piddling amount of new story content. Story came with it. Basically, Joker, or rather a young, gay, easily controllable guy that looks like the Joker, looks kind of like the Joker, was able to escape from Brainiac's ship without getting brainwashed, which makes no sense. If Brainiac was able to brainwash Batman and Superman, he could brainwash Joker, and that would have been more fun if that, than this. He could have been a crazy Joker and Brainiac monster and a new boss of the Royal Flush Gang. But no, he's just a guy that looks like Joker, but is a different kind of clown. We have the other things that came with him. Overpriced skins and villain-themed guns that should have been playable characters. Get used to that. We've seen it a lot. And this is a good time to talk about the other issues with these guns. Apparently, the guns and skins were supposed to be the main income for the game. There have been games that did that well, but this is one that does it wrong. Take the Bane gun, for example. First of all, I'd rather play as Bane instead, but at least you could earn the guns if you ground up enough levels and in-game currency. And the launch content guns, like the Bane gun, would give enemies status debuffs that would make things easier for the player as they fought. The Bane gun gave the Venom status effect. Status to enemies, for example. It basically damaged and confused enemies. Then Season 1 came out, and the Bane gun became totally useless. I'm not kidding. After hours of grinding all that currency spent using the Bane gun on new Season 1 enemies, it doesn't work so well. Why? Because they want you to send hours and bunches of currency to buy the Scarecrow gun. That's the crappy life service aspect of the game at work. I say crappy because a good life service game incentivizes you to play and buy things. Remember what I said about Helldivers 2? The basic gameplay loop was fun from the moment you first started playing. Then they say here's a new feature that makes things even better. The Suicide Squad, you have to do lots of stuff, lots of work, and by the next season it's all gone. Anyway, let's get back to the characters that you used to string us along during the life of this game. Joker, or Jonkler, as he was often called, and someone threatened to report me to YouTube because I called him that. Now that is sad. Now, when someone falsely reports me, because I said the transgender, homosexual, and atheist lifestyles are bad, and prove it, that's sad, but at least it involves a real person. The Jonkler is a digital puppet that you can dress up and load out so he can use the same attacks that everyone else uses. At least he moves differently than the others. Joker uses an umbrella he may have stolen from Penguin to blast himself into the air. You think he can ride on it and glide downward. He can also flip it up over his head to float or down slowly and shoot at enemies with his other hand. From what I've seen, people still think his movement is the best even after the other characters came out. Characters were unlocked. Next came Mrs. Freeze, an even more made-up character than Jonkler. They teased us with her silhouette. She looked like Mr. Freeze. Then they revealed her to most people's chagrin. She has a different backstory too. Brainiac froze her world, and I have no problem with that. But she says she changed her body to adapt to the cold. Mr. Freeze was turned into an Iceman by accident. They could have said she got turned into an ice person by Brainiac's attack. So did everyone else, including Nora, but it was worse for her, so she gets put in a glass tube so she can stay alive. But no, Sisters are doing it for themselves, even if it makes no sense. Anyway, she is nothing like Mr. Freeze. She's quipping and joking just like everybody else, and her attack is the same. She shoots the same guns as everyone else. The only difference is how she moves. Instead of a freeze ray, she has freeze boots, and she uses them to slide around in the air and shoot at people. She also can attack enemies with her ice axe. She is so different from Mr. Freeze, I call her fanfiction Freeze. Then came Lawless, aka Kim Belair with gravity powers. She's a copy of Deadshot, and she is the most annoying character in the game. And that's saying something. She says she's an ethical thief, and she goes on and on about how bodily autonomy and how her dad and the rest of the Suicide Squad have given up theirs for a shadowy government organization right after she did the same thing. And she doesn't even look cool. I thought she would fly like Superman. Well, she doesn't. She flips end over end and looks stupid. And there's Deathstroke, the character they strung us along with the most. In the Arkham series, Deathstroke is one of the best fighters in the DC universe. He was second only to Batman, and he wanted revenge for losing him earlier. Well, not anymore. After going to therapy and doing some healing, he no longer wants to fight Batman. He wants to kill Brainiac and save the world. Also, he's old now. He's basically a speedster with a kunai and a sword who shoots the same guns as everyone else uses. At this point, I am not surprised at the bad choices they made in this game. At least he's a man and looks the same with his helmet on. And his Brainiac boss fight was a fun joke. Still, all four of the characters they strung us along with suck. They're not like the characters are in the lore of the comics, and they all fight the same. And there are only 8 playable characters. Now, some sweet baby summer, so no, some sweet summer children were angry at me for hating on how few characters there were in this game. They were saying things like, "You shouldn't hate on them for having so few characters. Making characters is hard." Yes, making characters can take time, and mine for Mugen are not as complicated as theirs for their game are. But technically speaking, each new skin is a new character. And then I saw a commercial for a new season of Fortnite, where they introduced several new characters. And these are not one character with different equipment, copy over and over. You have Megalodon, a steampunk shark-themed guy. Peabody, a person with 3 pea heads in a pea pod body with legs. A person wearing a power armor suit from Fallout, and a version of Magneto from X-Men. New Rocksteady has the characters from the DC universe at their beck and call. Many people, including myself, have said that they could have had more characters. And characters that would have made more sense for a game like this than the game. For example, they want to fight Batman, Superman, Green Lantern, and Flash. Then get Bane, Bizarro, the Yellow Lantern, and an enemy speedster to fight them. There are several characters in the DC universe that could fill those roles. As a live service game, it fails. Then they come to the worst part of the game, the story. Now, there were some poor souls who made videos saying that the story was no big deal, but they were wrong. The story of Suicide Squad Justice League is one of the worst I've ever seen in my life. Heard in my life. Yeah, both. We live in a very interesting time in the game history. Late studios are releasing games that look good, play competently, have great vocal talent, and still suck. Suicide Squad Justice League is one of these. Also, it's one of those bait and switch games. For those that don't know, bait and switch games are games that advertise themselves as sequels, or prequels, or spin-offs that are related to the successful IP, but aren't really. Usually they happen after a studio upset, after the people who put the company on the map with awesome games are pushed out because the parent company or whatever decided to put DEI and ESG above everything else. Thankfully, those people often find new jobs and even start new studios and make new games, like the ones they used to make when they worked for the old studios. It happened with Rare, it's happening with Rocksteady, BioWare, and CD Projekt, and all the others that fell to the dark side. Those poor shells of studios didn't have a choice. They can be honest and say, we at insert studio name here have had some layoffs and other issues with our staff, and that may affect our creative process. But we will continue to provide high-quality game experiences in the same spirit of our company. Or they could do what most of these studios have done and make a bait-and-switch game. The trailer for the game will say something like, made by the studio that made insert awesome game series here. The same studio, but not the same people. And while they may show characters and places we know from previous games, something won't sit right. When I saw a trailer for Suicide Squad Justice League, I wondered why they changed Harley's outfit, changed Deadshot's skin color, and gave everyone guns. Then, when I saw the story and the gameplay, I knew something had happened at Rocksteady. Something bad. Then I heard that Sefton Hill and Jamie Walker had left Rocksteady Studios and formed their own studio. It's called 100 Stars. And for those that don't know, Sefton and Jamie founded Rocksteady. You would not exist the same way without them. Now let's get to the crappy story of this game and the crappy story surrounding this game's development. First, the crappy story in the game, crappy in-game story. It basically boils down to Brainiac invades Earth and then tells the Justice League that he wants to negotiate for peace. The Justice League, being idiots, fall for his trick, even though they know it's a trap. Even Arkham Batman goes. He totally would not. He would have had a backup plan, like calling Argus and getting the Suicide Squad to help in case the Justice League failed. But because the people who wrote the story hate the Justice League, none of that happens. They all go, and they all get brainwashed. Then Argus sends the weakest members of the Suicide Squad and King Shark to fight them. After almost dying several times. Seriously, why send them in a runaway train? And why send them with no soldiers to guide them? They then get caught by Green Lantern. If it wasn't for the Flash, they would have been brainwashed. and then take the Flash, injured by his battle with Green Lantern, into a building that just happens to be a Batman museum. Then Batman kills two people in front of him and hunts them down one by one, knocking them out instead of killing them. If it was it was one of my favorite parts of the game. Sadly, it comes to an end when Batman grabbed a handgun and pointed at Harley. He said something about using their corpses to strike fear into others who would resist to Green Lantern over his radio. But before the bullet he shoots can kill Harley, Flash musters what energy he has left and moves fast enough to knock it away. Batman then beats him with an inch of his life. He only stops because Brainiac orders him to. He then says, "We're ready for phase," which basically means beam us up, Scotty. And then they both beam away. I had a theory about this moment. I hope that when he said, "We're ready for phase," he meant everyone in the room, not just him and Flash. I had hoped that the Suicide Squad members you play as were beamed to Brainiac's skull ship and were hooked up to his machinery and were brainwashed, and that the rest of the game from this point on was an illusion. But apparently the writers of this game were not clever enough to do that. Anyway, the next several hours of the game's story are pure fan fiction. Instead of hiring villains that can match the Justice League's powers and abilities, they get plot contrivances, conveniences. Lex Luthor and a young toy man make an anti-Speed Force device to fight Flash with. They find a yellow lantern energy source to fight Green Lantern with, and this is a good time to talk about the person they say is Deadshot in this game. He is not Arkham Deadshot. He's a made-up character who's like movie Deadshot, or at least looks like movie Deadshot. But that's it. He does not act like movie Deadshot, but Arkham Deadshot. He's a character that was made up just for this game. So I'm wondering, why can't he be an Arkham Deadshot henchman? Why couldn't he work with Deadshot and then take up the mantle when Batman beat his boss? Or why couldn't he be a Yellow Lantern henchman who got the Yellow Lantern ring after Green Lantern beat up his boss? The ring could be damaged and he could be a noob at using it, so he could only fly for a little bit and shoot basic energy blasts. Basically, he would control like he does in the game, but as a Yellow Lantern. Why do I want him to be a Yellow Lantern so much? So he would actually stand a chance again and have beef with Green Lantern. You already have a Batman villain that wants revenge. There was no Green Lantern villain, and they shoehorned a guy who shoots guns in their place. Because the writers like him and hate Green Lantern, eventually he wins. Green Lantern dies, and they move on to finding the Batcave. Through more plot contrivances, they find it and figure out how to get past some of the best security in the world. Security in the world. After more bullcrap involving a bloody Robin mask and a Batman hologram being cheesy, the final Batman boss fight begins. Batman pumps Scarecrow's fear toxin into the cave and then attacks the Suicide Squad members one by one, and it looks like a fiery human-sized bat monster. All you can do is lumber around and shoot at him, and the creepy Batman statues ripped straight from the mental Joker segment in Batman Arkham Knight. Your goal is to play as each member of the Suicide Squad and get past Batman so you can flip switches on the fear toxin chemical sprayers scattered around the Batcave. Once you flip them all, every member will be gassed with Harley's mixture of fear toxin, and then Batman turns into a giant bat with a giant fiery bat torso. And then all you have to do is dodge what he throws at your guys and shoot him in his giant face until he goes, "No!" And then the fight ends. Then you see Batman lying on the ground in front of the Suicide Squad, riddled with bullets. They take him to LexCorp so that Lex can experiment on him to figure out how to beat fake Superman. Then they take him to a park bench, lecture him on causing long-term physical and emotional damage to people, and shoot him in the face, killing him instantly. Now there's a lot to unpack here. First of all, this scene is so stupid, it has been parodied at least twice. One animated video has Harley shoot Batman in his forehead, and his helmet stopped the bullet, and then he beat up the Suicide Squad. The other went deeper. Harley shoots Batman in the face, and then Batman surprises the squad from behind and knocks them all out. Superman flies over holding Brainiac's unconscious body and asks Batman how he's doing. Batman says he's doing fine, and then Superman asks why Harley was talking to an empty bench and shot at it. Batman's answers make so much sense. Fear toxin. That would have been a perfect explanation for the Batman boss battle in this game. The Suicide Squad were all gassed by the same fear toxin, and then Harley's new version of it. That new version of it, plus the old one, could make them see things that weren't there. Then there's what Harley said before she saw Batman. You had a great run, flying around the city, punching bad guys, causing long-term physical and emotional damage to everyone you knew. Yeah, you can't really hate on Batman for that, Harley. You cause all kinds of physical and emotional damage to people. I'm just talking about in the Arkham verse. I'll bet Warden Sharp and Commissioner Gordon were physically and emotionally damaged by what you did to them, Harley. And Batman stopped you from doing more to them and all the others. Lecturing him on causing harm to people after what you have done is hypocritical. Anyway, after they kill Batman, Superman shows up. Now, this is another issue. They kill Batman to draw out Superman so they could kill him too. But they didn't need to do that. Hours earlier, after they killed Green Lantern, his energy shield around the Skull ship was just taken down. Waller decides to launch a nuclear missile at it with the Suicide Squad only a few blocks away. She assures them that their sentences will be commuted after their death, though. But before the missile hit, Superman stops it. So it would have made sense to attack the Skull ship again. There was no need to kill Batman. Or, in fact, the other members of the Justice League. Yes, they did foreshadow that they would be killing them. The title says it, but I thought it was a joke. There's no way the members of the Suicide Squad that you play as stand a chance against the Justice League members that you fight against. Yes, they were able to find their weaknesses, but the Justice League have been able to win even against people who use their weaknesses against them. Then there's the scene where Wonder Woman ensnares Flash in her lasso of truth. She uses his powers to ask Flash how to stop the corrupt Justice League members, and he says, "You have to kill us. You have to die to save the world." But two incidences later prove him wrong. First was Green Lantern. After his boss fight, where you shoot him with Yellow Lantern energy-laced bullets, you see him lying there, still alive but too weak to use his ring. They could have totally taken his ring off and captured him. Then there was Batman. They shot him enough times to beat him, and then they took him to LexCorp and experimented on him to find Superman's weakness, and then they killed him. And then Harley said he would have wanted that. Bullcrap. Batman has fought people like the Joker and Harley who have killed many people. He didn't kill them. He took them to Arkham or Blackgate. Now, how ironic would it have been if Suicide Squad took the corrupt Batman to Arkham and gave him to Officer Cash? That would have been awesome, but none of that happened. They killed Batman to draw out Superman, and after a few words, they weaken him with kryptonite they made from experimenting on Batman, and his boss fight begins. While even a weakened Superman could destroy all four of them in an instant, he uses a lot of easily dodgeable attacks, and gets shot until he falls over dead. The squad mocks him, but then something happens. Something happens that I thought would be a confirm the brainwashing theory I came up with when I first saw it. They attempt to a jumping high five, and then find that they are stuck. Sorry about that. They are stuck. Brainiac then appears and walks around them, asking how they were able to beat his Justice League. Then he teleports them to his ship and has a simulator of creatures crawl on them while he talks about how he will make them better. But before they can begin, the squad are teleported away from the Skull ship to LexCorp. After getting their equipment ready, they go back to the Skull ship and have a Brainiac boss fight. I was expecting a fight where he would float around and throw energy blasts while his troops would attack, but instead he turns into the Flash. And after a copy of the Flash boss fight, they stab Brainiac in the head with a device to find out where the other 12 Brainiacs are so they can fight them. Yes, there were 13 Brainiacs because it's a live service game. And at the time of this writing, they were all copies of the Justice League boss fights. That was the launch story content. Now let's get to the season DLC story content. Season 1, you get the Jonker. Season 2, you get Mrs. Freeze and Flash comes back. Season 3, you get Lawless, Kim, and Green Lantern comes back. Season 4, you get Old Man Deathstroke. The story sucks. It is the worst aspect of the game, and I am so glad it's almost over. At the time of this writing, the ending has not been released yet, but I think I can guess what's going to happen. With Deathstroke in tow, the Suicide Squad go to the last world and fight the last Brainiac. Once the cutscene cut and paste boss fight is done, the Justice League will be saved. And they will be so happy, they will say, "Wow, Suicide Squad, you guys are so amazing. You should join the Justice League." And the Suicide Squad will say, "Thanks, but no thanks. We're good as is." Then they will ride off into the sunset on their way to have many more exciting adventures. And hopefully all of them will be off-screen, because this game sucks. It's like a beautiful diaper filled with crap. Which is fitting, because it's a Sweet Baby Inc. game. This is where the other narrative, this narrative consulting company made, comes in. Thanks to a journalist that is in their pocket, a rumor has been circulating that Sefton and Randy, the founders of Rocksteady, are the ones that made this game bad. The yellow green baby belly kisser who reported on this says He interviewed Rocksteady employees, and they told him that the founders were lazy and phoning it in with his game, and that they ran off and formed their own studio because when they saw this game was going to be bad. The other journalist also said that Sefton and friends were trying to do an MCU in-game kind of thing with Suicide Squad. What an insult. Now, everything DC content creators do is to copy Marvel. And if they wanted to get rid of the old characters so they could make new ones, then they would have had a scene where Batman says goodbye and looks like he died. Oh wait, they did. At the end of Batman Arkham's Night, Batman and Alfred activated the Nightfall Protocol. After he had to unmask in public to save people from Scarecrow, he and Alfred went into Wayne Manor, and then the place exploded. Newscasters from all over the world showed footage of it, and that is how Bruce Wayne died. Later, some muggers rob a rich couple and their child, and they see a shadowy figure standing on the roof of a nearby building. They yell at him, saying they aren't scared. Then he transforms into a fiery bat monster and jumps at them right before the screen goes black. He gets to be Batman full-time, and he used Scarecrow's fear toxin to scare criminals. That's awesome. Suicide Squad makes fun of these things. They kept calling him Bruce, and he had his mask off while posing for pictures of the Justice League. At this point, it's very clear what I think of the game. It sucks. But I'm not going to leave it at that. I also am going to talk about how Sweet Baby Rocksteady could have made a better game. There are two things they could have done to make this game better. Number one, make the game a good AAA game in the spirit of the Arkham series. Give each character a unique gameplay style. Agile Clown Girl Harley, close to medium range Boomerang, medium to long range Deadshot, and close to range Tank King Shark. Playing a single player offline game with one lore accurate things in it. But I have the feeling that you guys at New Rocksteady don't want to do this because woke DEI pushers hate lore. Lore will give them what they want, so they made their own lore, which makes the second option better. Make the characters you play as nameless, faceless soldiers. That way, they have no lore for you to deal with. You can equip them with whatever weapons you want, and have them act like whatever you want, whenever you want. Imagine Helldivers 2 style characters in the game. That would be a fun trailer. Welcome to the Suicide Squad, new recruit. Get your gear and weapons of choice, and report for duty. We have to save the Earth from an alien invasion, and worse, some of our greatest heroes have turned against us. Thankfully, we have assets, metahumans who can help us fight them, and organizations that will provide the equipment we need. Now get out there and take the fight to them. That'd be so awesome. Sure, a customizable character in the game takes off DEI pushers because they want to control everything, but a faceless soldier in baggy clothes could be male or female looking. And have characters like that. And having characters like that would work better for a live service looter shooter where everyone uses the same weapons. But instead of either of these ways, they chose the worst of both worlds. Characters that look like characters we know, but don't act like them and use different weapons than they would normally. That's the bait switch aspect of the game. If you saw the trailer or the game's case, you'd assume that it was a game about characters you know. Then you'd be more likely to buy it. Well, that's yet another scam by Sweet Baby. And like all scammers, it gets the treatment it deserves. Suicide Squad, Kill Justice League, Insomniac Spider-Man 2, God of War Ragnarok, and Alan Wake 2, The Last of Us 2, and all of the other Sweet Baby games failed to reach the records that their prequels reached. And yet, they act like they can't figure out why. Sweet Baby games suck because they focus on woke DEI bullcrap instead of good writing. Or good rewriting in this case. Yes, it is plain to see that the original script of this game is radically different than the finished product. I'll bet it was Batman who didn't get brainwashed, not Wonder Woman. I'll bet he was the one who worked with the Suicide Squad and eventually fought Superman and died. Or at least appeared to die. I'll bet it was a single-player offline game and a free-flow combat was the gameplay style. Man, what a great game that would be. But instead, we get a WB live service game with a crappy Sweet Baby story, and WB loses $200 million and Rocksteady gets gutted. I hate when things like this happen. When a large tree falls in the forest, it is a side event. It provided food and shelter for many, but eventually a parasite affected it and rotted it from the inside out. Branches have fallen off, and if the rot doesn't stop, the whole tree will come crashing down. It would cause a lot of damage, but at least the seeds from that tree have found root and grown into trees of their own. And one of the coolest things is that those new trees will be more rot resistant. 100 Stars, Rebel Wolves, and Archetype Entertainment are all made of developers from Rocksteady, CD Projekt Red, and BioWare. I would not ask them if they want to inject DEI into their games if I were you. Though it would be lead to some funny, whiny articles. We were having trouble finding work. We're having trouble finding work. Oh, wait. Anyway, as we end this retrospective, I feel I should talk about the few good things Suicide Squad Kill Justice League has done. It's exposed CBB and all other narrative consulting companies as the charlatans they are. It shows what giant corporate conglomerates, what the UVs are. It also shows that you should focus on game quality, not just the name of the company. And the woke DEI agenda was in full effect in that game, especially the militant feminist part of it. So thank you, Suicide Squad. You've helped us recognize more bad company practices in the gaming industry. And for that, I will sing a song for you. Sometimes the snow falls down in June. Sometimes the sun goes round the moon. I see the passion in your lies. Sometimes it's all a big surprise. There was a time when all I did was wish you tell me this is love. It's not the way I want or how I planned, but somehow it's enough. And now we're standing face to face. Isn't this world a crazy place? Just when I thought our chance had passed, you go and save the best for last. All of the nights you came to me with some silly skin that wasn't free. You wondered how you'd make it through. I wondered what was wrong with you. How could you waste your time on all that crap instead of good story? Sometimes the very thing you're looking for is the one thing you can't see. And now we're standing face to face. Isn't this world a crazy place? Just when I thought our chance had passed, you went and saved the best for last. To all 200 people who will be playing this game, please enjoy.